We're going to go to Michael, Nikki, Luke, Captain Truth, and others for trends forecaster Gerald Celente. But I wanted to finish up talking about Obama. It's just like when you grow up loving a football team, you identify with it like a political party. You don't want to admit when it's doing things wrong or lying to you. And so many Americans, this is changing, and that's our salvation politically, that the Republicans, the leadership, will lie to you. They work for the same special interest. The Democrats work for the same offshore criminal special interest. But you talk to Obama supporters, and it's just like Bush supporters, when we would say, he's spying on you. He's setting up Homeland Security for gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. They're setting up Brigade Homeland through Northcom to use the military against us. He lied about WMDs. He's torturing people. He's tripled the size of government. He's going along with all the Clinton advisors from before him with this seamless scam. The politicians change, but the Wall Street cronies stay in place. And they wouldn't listen. Now, as soon as Bush left office, they suddenly woke up to all these issues and got upset because now they saw Obama carrying out the issues. Suddenly, Democrats that could see what Bush was doing that was wrong were blind to Obama, and they'll get this sickening smile and say, you're just jealous of him, you're just a Republican, you're just a racist, you just don't like him, you got to give him time, when he's lied, as we mentioned earlier, about everything. A new standard in lying, worse than Clinton, worse than Bush, worse than Tricky Dick Nixon. Now they're having to give Senate speeches on the floor about his enemies list. I'm listed in the news as in the top 25 White House enemies for Obama deception. They're really going to hate Fall of the Republic that's now launched, that's now dropped. And it's this delusional syndrome where either people are waking up more than ever. We see a quickening there, huge numbers waking up. But still, those that are staying asleep are getting even stupider. They love being abused. They love being lied to. They love being scammed. They think it's cute. They think it's funny. They have invested in Obama. They have invested in the government. I have the Wall Street Journal with the head of the healthcare lobby admitting that the insurance companies wrote this as alluding and that the government wants a new tax, so they're going to split it with the insurance companies, and that they may back out because of citizen pressure by both liberals and conservatives against $5,000 fines. They want that. Obama only wants $2,000 fines if you don't get insurance, that they're pulling out of what they wrote. And they admit that in this Insurers Stand Against Committee's plan. So we hear the fake left saying, oh, Alex, you don't want the health care plan because you work for the insurance companies, when the insurance companies wrote the stinking thing. It's like it's a matrix of lies. The lies are so big that the general public just doesn't even know what to do. It's like the media, Gerald, saying there's no mercury in the shot. As I mentioned, when I have the insert for the H1N1 shot right here, and FDA.gov saying can give you Guillain-Barré's and can sterilize you and give you cancer. I mean, it's just what's going to happen to the system as people finally wake up to the fact that they've been completely screwed.
Well, again, we're seeing this is again, as we've mentioned many times and have been writing about it since 2002, and that this is much more than an economic crisis. This is the decline of Empire America. We've lost our morality, and morals don't change, values do, and people have lost their own self-respect. When they talk about healthcare reform, what are you going to reform? Look at this nation. It's a junk food eating nation. They poison their bodies with junk food, and they poison their minds with junk information. How could any intelligent adult turn on the TV and listen to the nightly news or any of this other stuff when you have these bad actors, these grade B actors reading scripts and that talk about Michael Jackson for a month and a half? So the people, again, America's a first, second, and third world nation wrapped into one. We're looking at a good 20% of the people right now that are neither right or left. They're all independent thinkers that are going to be at the forefront of this revolution. So again, we see this breaking down, and we also see the nation breaking down, and we can see it breaking down into smaller parts.
Well, Gerald, before the mainstream media, with other inoculation campaigns they push, they would just beat around the bush, never say there wasn't mercury in it. They would just leave that out and say it's safe. Now the New York Times and government program for public schools lies and gives parents and school children a handout saying there is no mercury, there is no adjuvants, there are no side effects. when every of the 5 versions of the vaccine, I'm holding one, anyone can get this at Walgreens, saying it can give you neurological disorders, saying it can sterilize you, saying it has mercury. I mean, I'm reading from FDA.gov, influenza H1N1 2009 vaccine information sheet, Diagnostics Limited, put out by Norvitis, the main vaccine maker.
Alex,
and it says,
look, the New York Times is the paper that took the nation to war against Iraq with the stories of, remember the aluminum tubes and the yellow cake? I mean, this is the New York Times that promoted the war. This is the New York Times that, when the markets were unfolding in August of 2007, quoted all these experts that said, oh, it's just a hiccup. Here, in front of me, the New York Times, last Saturday, October 17th. This guy goes on to say, well, there are plenty of experts who will tell you the worst is over, and I hope they're right. But as Mr. Roth about this book, discovered in the 1930s, the experts can't predict the future any better than the rest of us. Yes, we can predict the future better than they can. It's the arrogance of the New York Times.
Well, but you said it, though. They're delusional. Don't they know that's why they're all going under and going bankrupt? Don't they know that's why mainstream media is in a crisis? And instead of telling the truth, they just intensify the lying. It's like putting gasoline on a fire to put it out. Let's take some
members of the same club. It's the White Shoe Boys Club. That's why you go to Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. What do you think? They don't teach you better than anywhere else. It's you get into the system. And you look at the same, you read the New York Times, they quote the same experts that have been wrong 100 times before to ask them what's going to happen next. And then they have the arrogance to say that nobody can forecast the future because they didn't see it coming. And again, this is the paper that took the nation to war. Let's not forget the stories about the yellow cake and the aluminum tubes and the nuclear weapons in Iraq.
It's just another level of lying, though, to say there are no adverse reactions to the vaccine.
Exactly. It's just another lie.
Let's talk to Mike.
They're used to it. This is what they're good at.
Michael in Florida, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Gerald. Love the movie.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I have a question, or maybe it's just a comment. It's about the movie and the Federal Reserve. Basically, my question is if our politicians, if our Congress is all corrupt, they're passing bills without even reading them, and they're giving all our money away to offshore banks. That's one message, and then another gentleman that was interviewed in your movie said that he was in favor of nationalizing the Fed and putting the Fed in the hands of Congress. How could we trust putting the Fed in the hands of Congress if they're all corrupt? And
I'd like to comment on that. Number one, we have different guests on who have different perspectives. This is not like some cult where we just sit here and believe what I think or believe what one guest thinks. It's a college of ideas to get people really thinking about details. But number one, the Constitution says that the Congress is the boss because the people elect them. They follow the Constitution. The president then executes. The president just doesn't do what he wants. The Congress ran the coining and issuance of currency and credit, set the rules until 1913, and our nation on average had a 10% growth rate from 1789 until 1913. Now look at us today. We built the capital, we built the nation, we built this wealth without an offshore banking cartel playing hanky-panky with the interest rates and the money and giving themselves unlimited cash. And so, yes, we need to nationalize the Fed, and Ron Paul and others have a plan under the Constitution to get us out of this crisis we're in. If not, these bankers are going to keep raping us. Gerald Celente.
Well, you hit it. The Federal Reserve is Washington, and Washington's the Federal Reserve. At the break, I was mentioning about how Obama said about the too big to fails, use this dumb analogy about your neighbor's house burning down, and then on 60 Minutes, Ben Bernanke, several months later, said, quote, if you have a neighbor who smokes in bed and he risks to everybody, using the same exact analogy, his bogus analogy. And the point being is that there is no separation between the Fed and Washington. Federal Reserve is Washington. Look who the Treasury Secretary is. Only a blind person can't see it. It's Timothy Geithner. Where did Timothy Geithner come from? Well, he was the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and now he's in charge of the Treasury. What do people need to get
let me go
over the head
further.
with?